Welcome to Selfish Confidence, a place where we can connect and be real about how hard it is to be your damn self. My name is Jess, and my goal is to help you build confidence and belief in yourself to live any life path you want, even if it's unconventional. It's time to flip off societal pressures and connect with women who've also felt on the outside by their life choices. We're here to encourage you to grab the mic and speak your truth. I know it can be scary, but we're in this together. Let's get started. Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of the Selfish Confidence Podcast. It's Jess here, and I have been waiting to drop this podcast since the middle of September when we hosted our very first live podcasting event, like sitting and talking on the microphone, not in my pajamas, like actually in clothes with other people around. It was wild. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, let me give you a little bit of background. So earlier this year, I reached out to my very good friend, Jean-eva Dickie with the Book of Love Canada. She is the local matchmaker here in our city, Halifax, Nova Scotia. I reached out to her and I was like, girl, I really want to do a live podcasting event. And I think our energy would be really cool together. And she's like, heck yeah, I'm down. Let's go. Here's a bunch of locations. Here's what we can do. I really want to talk about business. Are you down with that? And I was like, oh, I wasn't thinking business. I was kind of thinking everything. But you know what? I am down. Like, let's go. And so we wanted to create a space that was both a live podcast for local business owners and a networking opportunity for people to come together, get to know each other, and really get to learn about what businesses are offered here in our city. And we wanted to talk about it all, like the juicy parts of business, the embarrassing parts of business, all of the things that come with being an entrepreneur and the loneliness that can sometimes come with being an entrepreneur. We wanted to put it all out on the table. So we created this event called Boss Talk, and it was a place for people to come together to talk about business, to talk about the ideas that they had, and to really lean into this energy that we do not have to do business alone. We can have community around that. So the event was part live podcast and part networking. And so I'm going to share with you the second part of the live podcasting event. If you're like, hey, where's the first part, Jess? You can head over to Jean-eva's podcast, The Book of Love Canada, and listen to part 1. So we divided it into chunks. If you're like, I can just listen to part 2, you totally can. You can jump right in here if you want. But if you want to know what we talked about before we got into part 2, head on over there. I'll put the information in the show notes, and then you can listen to this part, which is all about things that we've learned in business and some suggestions from the audience. We made sure to incorporate people who were there too, because we're not the experts on all things business, which is the beautiful thing. And opening up the live podcast to anyone who's there was just so much fun. So if you're like, I want to come to the next one, stay tuned. We will be having more in 2024. But for now, here is the recording, part 2 of the Boss Talk event with Jean-eva Dickie from Book of Love Canada and myself, Jess Clerke.
Tell them a little bit about the journey of the event. We actually haven't really talked about that.
We talk a little bit about how it came to be, but even just planning the event in general, is that what you mean?
Yeah. Like the things that came up that held us back and we had to change and pivot.
So many things. We've pivoted this event 3 times. Maybe more than that. Yeah. It's been a journey, especially because we originally had it in the summer, and then I think we sold 2 tickets. And then we were like, well, I don't know about you, Jean-eva, but nobody's really wanted to come to this. And don't think it's a reflection of the event. I really think it's a reflection of summer. And you were like, all events this summer have been really hard.
It was hard this summer to get events sold.
Yeah. So then we just kind of rolled with it. Can you put our slides back up and not your recording? And so then we pivoted it into the fall. And then even coming and this was a bit of a struggle too. I was September and I'm a person who events sell out really easy and really fast, and I it's hard. It was hard for me for it to not, and I know you're the same way. Events for you sell out really quickly, and people want to come. It's when it's something new, it's really hard. It's like we're starting fresh in a whole different niche that neither of us are known in. Yeah. And so when we met last week, we're like, I don't know if we want to bring it into a venue that we had picked out. We were going to Sidekick. We didn't want to bring it in there and it be small and it not be profitable for them either, right? So Jean-eva's like, let's just do it in the office. And I was like, actually, that's a sweet idea. Because then she also said hurricanes come in and we're like,
gosh, like, are we going to have to cancel last minute? Like, we didn't know. So we pivoted again, brought it here. And, like, I love this vibe.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, I'm liking this vibe. I'm liking this crew. I'm liking that it's small.
Yeah. We pivoted with marketing, too. Marketing, we did live episodes every week that we could just, like, sit and hang out and chat things out. A lot of online marketing. A lot of, like, sending messages to people just to, like, get the word out about what this is. So it's been a struggle. And so we thank you all so much for being here and for being a part of this first one. But, like, we didn't want to cancel. Even if one person was here, like, I would do it because we want this to grow.
Is anybody here thinking this is a singles event? Okay, good. Just checking. Just checking. Because I have done events, networking events in the past, like professional networking events, and someone left because they thought it was a singles event when they bought their ticket, right? So of course I knew that was a joke, just so you know.
I went to Jean-eva's singles event. She asked me one time, she's like, can you come and, like, just, like, come and, like, talk to people and, like, make people feel comfortable. I'm pretty sure I made them more uncomfortable. Like, it's not for me.
Great job.
No. I was like, married, don't look at me. I was so uncomfortable because I was like, I'm not interested at all. But I was just so nervous because I didn't want to lead anyone on. And then I was like, do I mention that I'm married? Is that, like, bragging? I don't know. So I was like, in person, like, groups aren't my thing.
I had to get him a t-shirt saying Matchmaker's boyfriend, and on the back, don't touch. Because, like, he came to one once looking hot. Oh, no doubt. And he was in the coat check, and, like, these women are like, coat check, dude. I'm like, fucking back off. What you doing? So now he's got a t-shirt that he has to wear everywhere. So, yeah, we should get you a t-shirt. I actually should get all of hostesses and hosts with t-shirts saying,
make me feel better.
There's a 50% chance I'm single. Ask me. Because there are hosts that are single, right? So
that's true. Yeah. It was fun. It was a good time, but I'm very awkward. So
you did a great job.
Thank you.
It's fascinating because with singles events, there's 20 minutes at the very beginning where everybody is shitting their pants. And they're so nervous. And this is why you need a lot of hosts to just kind of, like, loosen people up and, like, get the chattering going. But those first 20 minutes, you experienced it. You experience every time. Probably you saw it at a couple of events. It's just how
I was a little late.
You were late. See, it's actually smart to be late. It's smart to be late to those events, I think. So you can avoid the awkward.
That was it, but anyways.
Yeah, totally. So, okay, so we're going to go into some questions. So when you first started your business, how did you determine your pricing? How many people here feel comfortable about the pricing that they're using and, like, putting up pricing for their business? Yeah?
It's still so new.
So new?
Yeah, still so new, not sure.
How do you feel about pricing moving forward?
I'm still working on it, and even not knowing what that strategy would be. Do I post it? Do I make it public?
Mm-hmm.
Is it something that's more tailored to the individual client as you're doing one-on-ones versus group and different things like that?
Mm-hmm. What about you, John? Did you have any problem with pricing?
I don't charge for my service, so no, I don't.
Okay.
But, however, though, on that note, sometimes clients think I charge for my service. So, and you know, I assume that they knew at first, but so now as part of my introduction, I explain who I am, my experience, and then I actually explain that there's no cost for my service. Essentially how I'm paid is if they follow through the process, get a mortgage, I'm paid a commission from the lender. So it's good to explain that. And then as far as like, then it kind of shifts around why should we use you instead of go to the big bad banks, which have the big bricks and mortar and the reputation and stuff. So it's kind of comes around to that competition that we were talking about, but not really the price. However, maybe there's a barrier there that I don't even know about. Maybe just people assume that I charge a fee or something like that, but we don't. So there's an education piece on that.
Yeah, I actually had no idea. You just educated me. I literally thought there was probably a fee to go to you specifically. Fascinating. Okay. Brittany, how do you feel about pricing?
I feel good about pricing.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Are you pricing high, medium, low? What are you thinking?
It's definitely medium, but I offer so many different services that I really do a base price on hourly.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, whatever their budget is, I usually work with it. And then if they can't afford it, then...
Too bad.
Yeah.
What about you, Jamie?
I took a different approach when I started my virtual assistant business
Mm-hmm.
to pricing, and I reversed reverse engineered my pricing. I told them earlier that if I had the mic, I might not stop talking.
So he gave you the mic. I love it.
So when I started my virtual assistant business, I reverse engineered it. So I started with, what do I want to be making? How much time do I have available to be able to make that money? And then I worked out an hourly rate from that.
It's genius.
And then from that hourly rate, I created packages so that I wasn't being paid for my time. I was being paid for deliverables, like, or value or outcome or however you want to look at it. And I also had worked on my mindset a little bit prior to that. So it was like, this is my rate. If it doesn't work with your budget, that's okay. There's someone out there that they will work with your budget, but it's not me.
Mm-hmm.
And I was okay if it wasn't a match based on pricing.
That's genius.
Genius. I didn't come up with that idea.
No, well, yeah.
That was the approach that I took.
Wow. Did you guys take notes on that? Mm-hmm. Yeah? Okay, cool. Mental note.
You know what? Like, get Jamie's contact. Like, I ask her questions on everything. Like, literally. I do. Yeah. I love Jamie.
And I will freely share that information. Because most people start with,
Okay, what do I think this is worth hourly, people will pay, and what I think my value is. Whereas you're like, this is how much I'm earning, this is what I'm reverse engineering, this is how many hours I need to do this. And then to be brave enough to turn people away or not turn them away, but allow them to walk away if it's too much for them.
And allow them to decide. Because I didn't do that when I first started. I remember coming off the podcast and people were asking me like, hey, how can I work with you? And I was like, I got you. Mm-hmm. Here, you can work with me for a whole month. It's only $100 Canadian. Mm-hmm. And they got access to me as much as they wanted. I know. And then after doing that for a while, I realized I can't pay my bills on that kind of money, especially when you're starting out. And it got to the point, what are you whispering at?
I said I died a little when you told me that.
Oh, I know. And it wasn't until I got a business coach and they laughed that I was like, oh, this is bad. This is really bad. And I knew it was bad, but I really struggled with, what are people going to pay for me? I'm new, I'm fresh, and I really put it on them. And it took a while for me to shift that back and change it on me. And I still struggle with pricing. And we talked about this earlier. I know you do too. And it's just, what I would do differently essentially is what Jamie did, right? Like looking at what I wanted to make, even looking at what would pay my bills. All I wanted to do was start a business. And I didn't know anything about what that looked like other than like I'll have some clients. And it was like, looking back, I would do it very differently, but it also got me here. Mm-hmm. And I can say a year into my business, I'm quite successful for what has happened in just a year. And I think that came from me just roughing it from the beginning. And I will say I'm really blessed. My husband has a great career too. He works in a regular job. He's in construction. So I didn't have to stress as much about the bills. And at this point too, we had a great bonus from living in Barbados for as long as we did. He was working on a project there. And so I didn't have to worry about finances as much as maybe someone else might have to, but don't price your coaching packages at $100 Canadian a month, and most of your clients being American who are getting coaching from you for $50. Don't do that. Don't do it, okay? Yeah. I've learned, okay?
It's interesting. The more you price yourself, the higher you bring up your prices, the higher the quality of clients. And people say that, but you don't know that until you actually do it. So my pricing was interesting because I came into it, of course, thinking, I have no idea what I'm doing, so let's price this as low as possible, just get people in, right? Because this was in 2019 when I literally had no idea how to matchmake or anything outside of the speed dating event. So what I was doing is people would come in, take an hour of my time for free to get into the Book of Love. If there was a great match, I would send them the profile or whatever, and I'd send them on a date, and it was $60. Is what each of them paid to go on that date. And I was working hours to figure that out and hours planning the dates and getting all that done. And it was $60, so $120 in my pocket per couple going on date. But I have to say, like you said, it got me here. It really got me to where I needed to go. It made sense for me at the time because I was just learning how to do it. Like, I took a course on how to be a matchmaker, and I just wanted to learn how to matchmake people. And when it got to that part of the course, it was just like, it's just a feeling. And then they're like, and moving on. And I'm like, this motherfucker. That's the dumbest shit I've ever heard. That's all I wanted to learn. So you literally needed to trial and error. And I trialed, I errored, created a couple couples. But man, there were some doozies that were going out on dates and a lot of mistakes and all that kind of stuff. And then when things really developed and like pulled together, especially after COVID, I increased prices, but it wasn't until I hired a coach. And it was a matchmaker from Singapore. And we went through pricing, and she was like, what the heck is this? She's like, you are giving 5 times the value of any other matchmaker, and you're charging 1/5 of what they charge. Which is also interesting, because that was my mindset too, is that other matchmakers, which are doing great work and create lots of couples, they want men who are wealthy to come in and pay $10,000 to $50,000 and parade young, beautiful women in front of them. And I was like, I don't want to do that. I wanted to create a matchmaking company that was like matchmaking for the people, so long as you're kind and coachable. I will work with you. We'll see who we have. And no guarantees, obviously, which is why I did the pay-as-you-go, which took a lot of pressure off of me. But that was what I was trying to avoid, was to be the meat factory that I saw other matchmakers being. And so, but at the same time, I worked myself to burnout. I worked myself to exhaustion. And, not everybody sees that vision either. So it took her, literally, I paid her $6,000 to just tell me to charge more. And I increased my prices by triple that year. And then, of course, I tripled my income that year. And yeah, it's been so much easier because you can give so much more to clients when you're not burnt out, when you're actually being paid what you're worth. And I don't even think that I'm there yet. I'm still really low. Like, she would have had me probably charge even triple what I'm charging now. But I also think it makes sense for Halifax and Nova Scotia and the economy we're in right now. So I think it's just a mixture of all of that. But yeah, it took somebody to tell me you are insane to actually charge even remotely close to what the value is that we give here. So.
Yeah. It's that mix too of like, what do we charge for the economy here being Nova Scotia? We can compare our prices to what's going on in Toronto and other big cities, but like, it is a little different here. Yeah. And it does make pricing harder. And I also think we do underprice ourselves a lot because of that. And I actually wonder that we talked about this before, like, are we underpricing ourselves because we're women? Like, is it because we don't feel worthy? And I do still struggle with pricing, not necessarily from worthiness, but from just like, I don't know, I have this fear of making money. My husband said it to me the other day. He's like, it's almost like you're afraid to make money. And I'm like, I think, yeah. Because like, I doubled my income from last year, and I'm like, that's enough for first year business. That is it. That's all I should be making. And that puts a lot of barriers on yourself. And for me, I'm like, I obviously want to be making more. Why would I want to cap myself? It's only September. But I do still struggle with that. Like, I don't know, there's like a block for me when it comes to making money too sometimes.
Well, and I see that quite a bit with not just women, but just people in general too. I think a lot of people feel that, if I make money, we're taking it from people. We're stealing it from people. Vulnerable people that are seeking out my help, right? And there's a struggle between, can I help everybody or should I help everybody? And where that comes from too, because I see that a lot where we feel bad for making money, and to get past that is a huge barrier that you need to get past. Everybody needs to get past, not just you, but it's the fact that if you aren't paying your bills and you aren't thriving and you aren't able to, when the time comes, pay the employees, if you aren't able to do that, then how can you do what you're gonna do?
Yeah, Brittany's coming to work for me. We already discussed it.
We talked about this. She will get murdered. I'm like, Brittany, you stay away from her. Don't even look at her.
Yeah, it is interesting to see it like that too. And I often try to tell myself, because I do have this cap that I'm like, this is what you should make for your first year in business. We are good. We made it. let's just take the vacation, and I don't want to do that. But I do try to tell myself, like, good people with money can make big things. And for me, it's like, I do want a team, and I want to employ a lot of women, and I want to be able to, you know, bring people on full time and do big things. And I actually would, like, I have dreams of how I can help, like, even women's shelters and do just a lot. I can do that with money. So if I can get this cap off my head that I've put there, if anyone's read The Big Leap, Jamie lent me the book.
Oh, I read that.
Yeah, like, I have this cap there and this upper limit that I have to, like, bulldoze through so I can make money to support more women and grow this in a really special way. Like you have been, like, bringing great women onto your team. Like, I want to do that too.
And it's interesting, my old boss, not a great person, but he had a really good advice once. And he said, you're not a successful entrepreneur, which goes back to our first question, and I don't want to limit anybody's beliefs, but you're not successful. You're a selfish entrepreneur if it's just you. It's when you bring people on, you hire people, that you are bringing success to the economy, to the world around you. So that was kind of coming from his mindset, but that really sunk in for me. It's like, you can only get to a certain level by yourself, that, you know, and when you bring people on, you have to charge differently when you bring on staff, because you are there for them too, right? And you have to be able to pay their invoices and give them raises when they deserve it, and, you know, all that kind of stuff, right? So, yeah, so that's where that my head shifted, but that was a later on in business. Obviously, you have to get it to a certain level and have a system on your own before you can do that. But yeah, that was a next step for me not too long ago. And then again, my next step that I'm moving into now is to replace me and then work for my business or on my business, just growing it, right? So just hired somebody, which thank goodness for Enya. She actually was the push for that, was getting pregnant. And when I first got pregnant, I was like, oh my gosh, my business is going to nosedive. Like, it's going to fail. Like, how am I going to do this? How am I going to be a single mom? Obviously not a single mom.
Single at all.
How am I going to be a mom?
Not a single mom ever.
Sorry, I'm not a single mom. Sorry, Ham. Love you. How am I going to be a mom, which is like a whole new world, and still do this? And we were dabbling with the idea of, like, just shutting down matchmaking for 2 months. We were dabbling with the idea of just filling the city full of events, so hopefully people don't notice if I just disappear for 2 months. We were trying to do all of that stuff. And then I was talking to friends, and I was like, you know what? No, I think now's the time to actually just force myself to replace myself. The same as when I got fired was the only way that I was going to actually do the business full time. The same way that it took me being miserably single to start this business to begin with. It took me getting pregnant to actually take the time to hire somebody, replace myself, and move forward. So all of these big life things that we think are going to be a huge change is always for the better if you do it properly, or if you really kind of run with it. So yeah, getting pregnant was really the next step I needed to push me into that realm, which is terrifying. Because, like, there's some months where I'm like, okay, well, I'm not paying myself this month. It's just like we're paying the employees this month, right? And that's okay, though. That's okay. So.
Big, expansive energy up in here. I love it.
Yeah, I'm excited. That was not the question, but let's move forward. This is the one I moved up because I'm excited to talk about it. Can you share a time when something didn't go as planned for your business, and how you turned it into a valuable learning experience? Jess?
You take this one.
No, it's all you. I just talked for 10 minutes. This is all you.
This question, Jean-eva and I already know how we're going to answer it. And if you were on any of the Facebook Lives we had, we talked about an event. And you know what I was just thinking earlier? It hasn't even been a year since this event, so I'm really not sure we should talk about it. Everybody's feels. Okay.
Everybody's feels.
Well, my first event that I reached out to Jean-eva about, because I've collabed with her on a lot of things, because we have good energy together. It works really well. And I came to her and I was like, you want to do this super cool, it's essentially a networking event, but it was for friending. It's friending. And she did speed friending, and I do social. So I was like, this will be so much fun. So we did an ugly Christmas sweater roller disco event. We had about 50 women come out to this event, and it was great. Yeah. Great energy, so many fun people. And
everybody was excited.
So we, again, like I told you, a lot of our events sell out. So it was just it was just good energy. Right around Christmas, it was just like The venue was so
Showed up
exciting.
looking adorable.
We had ugly Christmas sweaters on. I wore a full reindeer onesie. It was a good time. And like just a great room of people. And people made great friends at that event. But like even from the second I was at the door and I was taking the names of the people coming in, hugging people, making people feel welcomed. And there was two people that came in, a woman and her mom, and they fell in like the first second and they were gone before anyone came back in. They were the first people to get there. They did a round, fell, and they're like, we're out of here. And we were like, okay, cool. I was like, I should have taken that as a sign. But we didn't. We were just like, okay, like that's weird. But like, I don't know why you wouldn't want to stay. Cool people are here. Yeah. And so we just kept going on with our day. And we did networking for people to come. So they all just talked. And like at that point, it was still going really good. About like 30 minutes into the event, someone fell. Yeah. They fell hard. And as they did, they broke their wrist. And I was panicking because, as you know, I'm an empath. I feel all the energy.
You didn't know she broke her wrist.
No, at that point, she just fell. Yeah. The first person fell, and it was like chaos. Mm. And then 2 or maybe 5 minutes after, another person fell. It was pretty bad. Yeah. And then about 5 minutes after that, another person fell. We sent 3 people to the hospital that night. Yeah. 3 people to the hospital, and then we had to pretend like everything was fine after these people left to go to the hospital. Because we still had about 40 people there at this event that I wanted them to feel welcomed and like it was fun. Yeah. Jean-eva played it off really cool, but I went home and I probably cried all night.
Did you?
Yeah, it was really hard. One of them being a very close friend of mine who broke her wrist to the point where you could see bone. It was really bad. And it was just one of those moments of like this event that I had dreamed of because I wanted to do roller disco event. Like that's so fun for me. Like we talked about networking with an activity. So cool to do it roller disco style. And I thrive on wheels. Like I thrive in these kind of situations. So like for me, I was like, no one's going to fall. It's going to be totally fine. Actually, one of the people who did fall, she took her wedding ring off that night and put it on the other hand, or didn't bring it because she's like, just in case. Because she didn't want her wedding ring to get cut off. So interesting. Wow. I know, because I was like, who would think they're going to fall? And she was the one who went to the hospital for like several days after the event. So this was one of those moments where we had like this dream event and it did not go according to plan.
Yeah. Well, I remember it took me a while to put my laces on because I'm not good on wheels.
I know.
So it took me a while.
Even like, because you were like on the floor with your shoes on.
And I was hanging out next to with the other people that were hanging out next to that.
Yeah, and I was rolling.
Right.
So we had a good like.
And I saw a little tumble, and then I went and did my first circle. And then by the time my only circle, just one circle, I did my little circle, and then I came to the end, and then there was somebody with a pail that was throwing up into a bucket, a broken wrist here, and another person like just hit the floor. And I just like skated back, took off my wheels, and I'm just like, wow, it's not funny.
It happened so.
One circle, one really slow Jean-eva circle is how fast it happened.
Fast.
Yeah.
And the thing was, like, again, we had to pivot with that event because there were people who were killing it. There were people who started learning tricks from people. Like, there was people who were having the best time ever. And we still had to show up and have a game face for those people. And a lot of people had a lot of fun. There were people who were leaving and they were like, oh my gosh, I can't wait till we do this again. And we're like, we're never fucking doing this again. And I've never done another event on wheels or skates or anything. And I will never.
In the venue, we were just like gliding in with ice and just like putting it on them and then gliding away to go get more ice. Did you see that? They were just gliding around with ice. They didn't care. They saw this all the time.
I know, but they made me feel really old that night because they're like, this never happened. We never have had this many injuries in one night. And I said, bullshit. Because then someone who like talked to me after, they're like, oh, my sister-in-law went and she broke her wrist there too. Like, this shit happens all the time, this place. Like, and we will not name names because we don't want to like put them out of business anyway, but it was not great. No. And when we were leaving, they passed you a loyalty card. Like, do you want to come back? Here's a punch pass. And she was like, I'm not coming back.
Never coming back here again.
Yeah.
In a joking way. But they laughed.
Yes.
But yeah.
And so we swore tonight we weren't going to send anyone to the hospital. Yeah. So, like, everybody, like, I think we're doing good so far. But that was one of those things. It's just, like, again, it was a dream that I had to put this event on. And it did well. Like, A lot of people came and had a good time, but
But you have PTSD from this. That's
I'm really struggling talking about it tonight.
Yeah.
Because it's not even a year. But even afterwards, I knew someday I'll be speaking on a stage, and maybe it's this one. But I do picture me like speaking on a big stage, just being like the first time I ever had this big event, and I sent 3 people to the hospital because like it is funny.
yeah.
Sorry to the people who broke wrists at Christmas. They were like wrapping Christmas gifts for their kids with one hand. But
See, I got to just disappear because nobody I knew hurt themselves. She had to do all the follow-up, and I'm like, how are people doing? She's like, good. I'm like, that's good. Yeah. It was all your people.
no surprise. No surprise but it was a good event. But yes. And that's what happens when we collab together. Oh, but what was the valuable learning experience? Don't do another event on wheels?
Events on wheels.
Yeah.
Events on wheels.
Liability. And have people sign consent forms.
Yeah.
Like, or like, what was it? Like, they had to sign forms when they got there. We were like, thank the Lord, because that was so bad.
Well, and honestly, to answer this outside of that story, like, could you share a time that things didn't go to plan for business and you had to turn into a valuable? Every freaking day. Like, every day there is something that doesn't go to plan, and every day you got to pivot. I know I drive Brittany and Olivia crazy because I'm like, we're doing this now, we're doing that now, and they're like, I don't know what's going on. But, like, I'm trying to pivot to get things organized for when I'm out. Same thing with events. Like, even we have done, I think we're on like 70 events at this point, or we're getting close to 70 events, like speed dating events. And we still are learning things to do it better for the next speed dating event. And that's after 70. Like, we still haven't even mastered that yet, right? Definitely haven't mastered matchmaking yet. It's getting way better. Like, we're getting like really amazing couples pumped out of the Book of Love. And same with coaching. Like, it's different every time. So if you aren't flexible, if you aren't learning and experiencing and changing all the time to try to get better in the business that you're doing, then you're going to get bored, right? So if you really take all of these experiences negative and you turn it into a learning experience, that's all you can do. John Maxwell has an amazing book. It's called Failing Forward, and that's how you get to where you're going, is you got to fail over and over and over again. And in big ways, like broken bones. No, or it could just be a hurt feeling here or there, or it could just be a scheduling thing that didn't work out, right? So it's constant all the time.
And I always love that with your energy when you talk about it, because like even just like different friendships that have failed, not necessarily events, but different like business relationships and friendships. I've always loved that you have been able to be like blunt and upfront about it. And that is something I still struggle with, because I care a lot about people's feelings. So I'm like, I don't want to hurt your feelings. And Jean-eva is just like, this isn't working anymore. And you don't do it in like a negative or a mean way at all, but like you're very good at cutting what needs to be cut. And I think that's like like something that I always strive for too, because I'm like, I just want to like be able to cut this off. Like, it's not helping me anymore, whether that's an event or a piece of my business or any of that. And I do struggle with that, whereas you like cut what you don't need.
Yeah. I and you say it's a strength. I think it's a huge weakness of mine that I can just snip-a-roo and just like move on.
That's why she talked about being a single mom.
Sorry, boo-boo. Love you. But yeah, no, I think that's important too, because that's something I learned. I had mentors in Calgary, and they talked a lot about snipping people out. And especially when you're in business and you're growing and you're changing and your values are changing and what your goals are changing, going out and getting drunk every weekend is no longer something that you prioritize, because you're prioritizing getting caught up on work. Like, I know my first 2 or 3 years of business, I did have to snip out a lot of relationships. And I did wake up after those 3 years and I felt really freaking lonely because I didn't invest in those new relationships, right? The new ones that were meeting me where I was at, because I was so busy snipping and building the business. But that's what this kind of stuff is, right? This is building those relationships that are needed to fill that soul, because I know that if I kept those businesses or those relationships in my life, it would have held me back. Yeah, by a lot. I know a lot of people in this room probably feel that way about certain relationships too, right? And it feels weird. It's hard because like those relationships are in your life for so long sometimes, and there's so much a connection there that you feel bad for snipping, but what's your ultimate goal in life, right? And the relationships can come back in the future too. It doesn't have to be a full snip. You never know where you're going to be in 5 years and how things have changed for both of you. That's happened several times. Yeah.
I love that.
Snipperoo.
So now you know about the roller disco event. People actually, it's out in the world. People afterwards, I've told them like what happened, and they're like, "You were really quiet on social media for a few days," and I'm like, nobody knew that it was. But we just like put it out there, said good time, because we didn't want anyone to really know that we sent 3 people to the hospital. 3, like not just one, like 3 at Christmas. It's brutal.
That's why social media is fake, because nobody knew what happened.
Nobody knew.
Until today.
But people did, I will say, people did have a good time, okay? Myself included.
Yeah.
Other than, like, I love the roller disco. I just haven't been able to go back.
My one circle was like so much fun.
I look on Marketplace for roller skates still every day. Like, I love roller skating.
Yeah.
But I won't bring anyone with me. We're going alone.
Does anybody else have a story about, or like an experience with that where there was like a huge valuable learning experience in their business or in their life? Jamie's smiling. She's got one.
I want to know about the first time you guys had to fire a client.
Oh. Yeah. I do it pretty much weekly.
Again, you're very good at that.
Yeah.
Because there's the people who I said to, like, oh, I don't really want this person to come. She's like, just tell them.
Yeah. Have you fired a client?
No.
Never fired a client.
I raised my prices and that kind of cut some clients out. But it wasn't necessarily a fire.
I fire clients often, and clients fire me all the time too, right? So it's just part of the industry that I'm in. We also, a lot of the time, we don't let everybody in to the Book of Love. We don't work with everybody. And there's probably nothing worse than to come to a matchmaker and have her say, I can't work with you. That would be rock bottom. So the first time I fired a client, though, it wasn't good because it's the first time you do it, right? So it's never fun. I can't remember exactly who it was, but the firing now is really just, hey, it's been lovely working with you. I don't think we have what it is you're looking for, but I wish you the best. So that's kind of what it is now. Back then, it's more emotional, probably, because it feels like you're breaking up with them, right? And you know it's going to be painful for them. And probably the build up to it was emotional as well, because we're dealing with people's love life, right? But again, if someone's kind and coachable, we'll work with you. 100%. Whether we can guarantee you matches or not are two completely different things, especially if there's no coachability there. Like if you want to just get into the Book of Love and, wait for a match, absolutely. But if we suggest some sort of coaching to improve that experience and your experience outside of the Book of Love, and you're not open to that, there's only so much we can do, right? So that's also how I had my business set up in such a way where I didn't really have to fire too many people either. We just really are holding space for people in the database. But I remember, so I do have a story with one guy that it wasn't firing a client, but he did call in for the 15-minute phone consultation. And he was in Ontario. And I have this uncanny ability to hear in someone's voice if they're a narcissist or not. For a man, I can't figure it out with women just yet, but I can tell a male narcissist when they call and how they talk about whatever it is they're talking about. So this guy lived in Ontario. He came here once, someone waved at him, so now he wants a girlfriend in Nova Scotia. And he was in his mid-50s, but he wanted to date women 35 and under, which now, I have this amazing way to explain how that's not what we do. But back then, I didn't. I said, hey, I just don't think it's the right fit. You live in Ontario, and we don't really matchmake people outside of the province at this point in time. But he was really argumentative. He's like, well, I don't understand why. Like, I come here all the time, and I wasn't confident enough in my ability to communicate that. Because then I said, but also, you're not vaccinated. A majority of my clients here are vaccinated, which was a lie because I had no idea. And he's like, so there's nobody that's not vaccinated? And he was arguing with that. And then I remember I just kind of snapped and I said, listen, the women here just don't want to be your baby makers. And then he went off. You actually can go on Google and read his review if you want to. So his one-star review, Raymond, Love Raymond. I remember you still. So then he went off on me, and then eventually I was just like, click. So that was probably the worst experience when it came to trying to turn somebody away, for sure. Which wasn't really firing a client, but still a funny story. But go check him out on Google. Book of Love Canada, Mr. Raymond. He's got a 1-star review there. And it does say, she said they don't want to be my baby maker. So, so that's my story. Yeah. John, I don't know what you mean. Abrasive, what? Blunt. What? I'm trying to filter that Patty Stainer energy every now and then. There's a reason she is the way she is, okay? It ain't, yeah.
I love it.
Can you describe a moment when you realized, do you guys have any questions for us, by the way, before we keep going through this stuff? Because that was fun. That got a story out of me I had no plan of saying.
Yeah. I didn't hear that one before.
Yeah.
I like it.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Can you describe a moment when you realized your business was transitioning from surviving to thriving, and what factors contributed to that shift?
Yeah. Again, this goes back to that belief in myself. Again, my business is like a personal brand. It's all about me. I have to be thriving in order for my business to be thriving. Like, people are buying me, and that always feels really weird to say, but it is the truth. Like, it just, if I'm doing really well, if I'm doing really confident, if I'm putting myself out there and doing all the things that I want my clients to do, clients are going to come. So I can notice a big difference when it comes from just like surviving to thriving. Putting out my podcast for the first time, I was literally surviving. I was so broken, and I started this project called the Year of Confidence, and I did these projects every single day to build my confidence back up for a whole year. And really, I think finishing that project, as soon as I was done that, I applied to speak on this like really big stage. I was like, I'm going to get this. Like, I am the coolest person ever. And I took my paddleboard out into the river for some reason and recorded this entry video for this stage that I really wanted to get on. And I took so many takes. I was just struggling with it. But I was like, I'm submitting it. I'm going to get this because I am the bomb right now. I just finished the Year of Confidence. Like, I got this. And I really thought at that moment, a year ago, I was in that thriving phase. It was coming out. I was like, I got this. I didn't get it. I was really disappointed. And I just like felt like that it was for me. But it wasn't at that time. And that was okay. And then I took a 2-minute video this year. We had to send a 90-second clip in, and I got it this year. And next week I'm speaking on a stage in front of 500, 800 women. I don't know how many people are going to be there. And it took a year later. So a year ago, I thought I was thriving. Where I am now is obviously a lot more. But it was like just this whole year of leading up to that and just believing it over and over and over again, even though I didn't get it last year, and not giving up on that. That helped me to believe like I am thriving this business. And it's not for me monetary. Like, oftentimes people will look at their numbers, and sometimes I can get down on myself on my numbers. I'm like, oh, well, there's not that many people in the sisterhood, and there's not many people doing this. But for me, thriving isn't about the numbers at all. It's really about that feeling and believing in myself enough to even put the application in again, or even to just like go to an event like this, or to put something like this together. Like, this feels thriving for me. The fact that like there's you here sitting listening to me, I'm like, this is wild. And that feels thriving for me. So it's always a feeling. It's not necessarily the numbers. So I think, yeah, last year I thought I was thriving when I put that video in. I would say the shift happened then, but I only got it a year later. So.
See, it bounces back and forth for me. It depends on the month.
Yeah.
Like, I'm never thriving. I'm always, I don't know. Like, it depends on the month. It depends on the week. Depends on the day.
Just the hour.
Depends on, like, honestly. And it's like, you go from one thriving moment to the next. That's how you kind of keep going, right?
Or one surviving moment to the
Or
next.
one surviving moment to the next.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've actually never really fully felt thrive. I mean, I have people come to me, they're like, oh my gosh, you're totally thriving. And I'm like, am I? Oh my God, I had no idea, right? Because you just see the grind all day long, right? So basically 1 month can be just absolutely amazing. And the next month you're like scraping by. And then, you know, maybe a couple more scraping by months, and then just like an amazing month, like 3 that go by. So it's constantly changing. And, but I think that's kind of why I love it so much, because in the employment setting, when I was an employee, you're just kind of meh. You're just you're good, right? You got your salary, you got your medical, you got all this kind of stuff. But like the thriving is such a high and it's so addictive that it gets you through the surviving to then push to get back to thriving. And it's like the peaks always get higher. I guess it's an addiction now that I'm saying it, but like the peaks always get higher and you always want to do better and you always want to do better and you have nobody to compete with but yourself. And it's like the coolest feeling ever, but I never feel like, oh, there was one point in my business where things are now thriving forever. Because I don't think that'll ever happen.
It's interesting that you bring up like your day job back when that was a thing. Because for me, that would be surviving. Like my day job was just me surviving, getting by, paying the bills. Like, oh, there's money. Cool. I literally went home crying every day from a lot of my day jobs. And so honestly, like for me, it's just the energy of thriving, like now to be in doing what I love. Because like, yeah, I paid my bills probably better back then. You're right. Like money was coming in. I had benefits. Things were fine. Thriving is just doing what I love. But again, it's not.
It's all perspective, right? But I focus on the numbers and you say you don't focus on the numbers, right? So like every day I open up my files and I'm like, or I open up my merchant services and I'm like, how much money came in yesterday? And then I want to beat that, right? So I guess it's like always comparing to last month, always comparing to yesterday, last week, what have you, to be better. So again, I guess that's perspective. I learned.
I think that's why we work so well together. Just every question we'll always have a different answer for, and I'm like, that's so funny. Like I get it. We obviously have to make money for business to work. In order for me to pay my bills and to live my life, obviously we have to make money. But it was never that for me. And again, I am very blessed. I have a supportive partner who I told him today, I'm like, I'm an investment. I'm a great investment right now. It's not always the best. He's like, I know, baby, you're a great investment. It's like, he knows, like, this is going to be big. Yeah. We're just not there yet. I'm a great investment. And if it's not me, it's like the investment that comes from my parents later. Fine, I'm a great investment.
Han said that about me when he first met me. He said, you're an investment, which is funny because I always say, do not date someone's potential. What time are we at? Do we have time for this? Yeah, we got lots of time. Yeah. So he saw me as an investment when he first met me, but he also thought that I made a lot more money than I did because I met him right after I got fired from Amano, which was a really powerful story too. There's two stories here, but I'll go on with Han. But so he saw me as an investment. He also saw me all over social media, all over TikTok. He saw me all over the city, and I was at that time maybe making $100 a day. Maybe. And that didn't include like the expenses of the business. That was just how much money I was bringing in. So I was bringing in about $3,000 a month. Wasn't paying myself pretty much anything outside of my $800 rent. And I remember on our third date, I brought him over to my apartment, and my apartment was the size of this office, you guys. So it was the size of this office plus a bathroom. And it wasn't this nice. It was an absolute hole-in-the-wall dungeon. And he said that he thought about breaking up with me because he thought I was like in some bougie house in Bedford, being this like Hallie famous person, as John says, which is, I haven't heard that in forever. But yeah, and then he went back to his dad, who was a lifetime entrepreneur. And he said, like, she's great. She's so fun to be around. It's so easy, all this stuff. But you should see her apartment. Like, it's in the middle of nowhere. It's disgusting. And, like, it was just a closet, a bathroom, and a bed. That's all I used it for. And then I would leave and work all day. And his dad was like, you're a freaking idiot. Like, she's an entrepreneur. She has to have zero expenses in order to build that business. You said that she just got fired from her job and she's doing this business full time, and you think she's going to live in a place in Bedford? Are you a dummy? So his dad basically vouched for me, and yeah. So fortunately, he didn't break up with me because he's amazing, even though I'm a single mom. But yeah. So that's what he first saw. I actually still didn't move out of that apartment until he moved me into his condo last Christmas. And he was like, should you upgrade apartment? Should you do this? And I'm like, no, like it's $800 a month in this economy. And where in the world, right? I spend more for this office. I pay more for the office than I do my apartment. And yeah, that's just what I had to I had to do, right? So I don't know how.
And not to get personal here, but like she moved into the apartment last Christmas and they had a baby in January. Engaged baby January.
Oh yeah, I moved in December.
Yeah.
He put a ring on the finger. I said, you have to do it before 2023. He did it 4 hours before New Year's because it's totally his style. And then, we got knocked up the following week.
Yeah. She was fast.
Yeah. I was like, you can't put a baby in me until there's at least a ring on my finger. So he got that on there. And then, we got knocked up a week later.
I can't hide my expenses from Glenn because everything is shared. He sees it all, so he knows. He knows. He's just like, I'm waiting this one out. Where are you gonna go? Where?
It's true.
Yeah.
Well, we can finish this up. I think that's pretty much the end of the live podcast.
Yeah.
Any closing statements that you want to make?
No, I just want to say thank you so much for trusting in us and for being here and being a part of this very first one. Again, we see this going somewhere really cool. So it's just nice that you guys trusted us.
And didn't know what to expect.
And with the storm coming, you just weren't seeing.
No.
Thank you. Thank you so much because there's the people who didn't want to come because of the storm or they're prepping. I'm like, it's not happening, guys. It's just a little bit of rain. So thank you. Like, really thank you for trusting us and for being here because it's just like, another one of those dreams. And thank you so much for nobody going to the hospital. Like, thank you so much because... Be careful, please.
Is there any peanut allergies?
I said don't get peanuts because someone's going to have an allergy and you're just like...
That's your PTSD speaking. I'm like, we're all adults here. You can get peanuts.
Nobody is going to the hospital. Not today.
What's up, sis? I am so glad we could hang out today. If you love this episode, send it to a friend or share it on your social media and tag me so I can personally thank you for helping me sprinkle some confidence in the world. And don't forget, you are magic. Let's show the world your shine.